My daughter-in-law placed the steaming bowl in front of me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I lifted the spoon, tasted the food, and froze. My mouth filled with something bitter, metallic, foul. My gaze drifted to the dog's bowl in the corner of the kitchen. The smell, the texture. It was the same. My stomach lurched. She thought I wouldn't notice. She thought I'd swallow it and stay quiet. But what I discovered next changed everything. I should start from the beginning. My name is Margaret, but most people just call me Grandma. I raised my only son, David, with every ounce of strength I had. His father passed away when David was 12, and from that moment on, it was just the two of us against the world. I worked long shifts at the library, saved every penny, and skipped meals just to make sure he could eat. When he got into college, I sold my jewelry to pay for his first semester, and when he finally graduated, I thought my sacrifices were worth it. When David met Anna, my heart swelled with hope. She was beautiful, with sharp green eyes and a confident laugh that filled every room. She called me Mom at first, brought me flowers, even baked me a cake on my birthday. I thought, finally, I had gained the daughter I never had. At their wedding, I cried tears of joy. I remember holding Anna's hands and whispering, "Take care of him, he's my whole world." She smiled back, her grip firm, and promised she would. In that moment, I believed her. I believed every word. Life after the wedding seemed peaceful enough. They invited me to live with them, and I thought it was kindness. I told myself, "You're lucky. Not every mother-in-law gets to stay close to her son." At first, everything felt warm. I cooked meals for them, folded the laundry, helped raise the grandchildren when they came along. The house was full of laughter, and I thought I had found my place again, but cracks began to show. They were small at first. Anna sighing when I joined them at the dinner table, her sharp comments, "You like the window seat, don't you, Margaret? Then I guess I'll sit somewhere else." Or when she'd forget to serve me a plate until David reminded her. I brushed it off. I told myself she was just adjusting, that being a new wife and mother was stressful. Still, the distance grew. I heard whispers late at night, muffled arguments when they thought I was asleep. Anna's voice dripping with irritation. "She's always here, David. Don't you think it's too much? She's sucking up our money, our space, our lives." His replies were softer, strained. "She's my mom, Anna. She has nowhere else to go." And then silence, heavy and suffocating. I stayed quiet. I told myself not to cause trouble, not to be a burden. I tried harder, cooking more meals, watching the children longer hours so they could rest, handing over part of my pension to cover groceries. I thought maybe, just maybe if I gave more, she would soften. But instead, her smile grew colder. One Sunday afternoon, I made a roast for the family. Everyone dug in happily, except Anna. She pushed her food around, then stood and scraped her plate into the trash. "Too salty," she muttered, loud enough for me to hear. My cheeks burned, but I forced a smile. David glanced at me but said nothing. The children watched, their little eyes picking up on the tension. Another day, I found my clothes still wet in the washer, forgotten and sour-smelling. When I asked about it, Anna shrugged. "Maybe you should do your own laundry separately. You know, for hygiene." Her words stung, but David didn't defend me. Every insult chipped away at me. Yet I stayed, because I told myself this was my family, my home, my son. One evening, Anna brought in takeout, boxes of fragrant food for everyone. She handed them plates piled high, but when she came to me, she slid a small bowl across the table. Inside was something pale and mushy. It smelled faintly rancid. I frowned. "What's this?" Her smile was thin. "It's softer, easier for your teeth." The children giggled. David chuckled awkwardly. My hands trembled as I lifted the spoon. The taste was strange, almost like canned meat. My eyes darted to the pantry, where I knew she kept tins of dog food. A chill ran through me, but I swallowed it down, convinced I was imagining things. But after that night, I began noticing things. The dog's cans disappeared faster than he could eat. My meals always tasted slightly different. And the way Anna watched me, waiting for me to take that first bite, her lips twitching in amusement, it was no accident. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe grief and age were clouding my judgment. Yet deep down, I knew. A mother always knows when she's being hunted, when cruelty is lurking behind a smile. I began to feel like a ghost in my own home, invisible, unwanted. Every time I walked into a room, Anna's laughter would stop. Every time I spoke, her eyes rolled. David grew quieter, stuck between us, but always leaning just a little closer to her. One night, I overheard her on the phone with a friend. I stood outside her door, trembling. Her voice was mocking, cruel. "You should see her face. She eats whatever I give her. The old fool doesn't even notice." Her laughter echoed like a knife slicing through my chest. I staggered back to my room, the world spinning. Tears blurred my eyes as I sat on the edge of the bed. My son's wife was feeding me dog food, on purpose, and he didn't even see it. My heart ached, not just from the humiliation, but from the betrayal. I had given my life to David. I had loved Anna like a daughter. And this was how they repaid me? I pressed my hands to my face and sobbed silently so the children wouldn't hear. My body shook with anger, with sorrow, with something darker I had never felt before. But even as I cried, a thought began to form. A dangerous, fiery thought that took root in my soul. She thought I was weak. She thought I was blind. She thought I would never fight back. But what I discovered next changed everything. After that night, the truth was impossible to ignore. My daughter-in-law wasn't just cold. She wasn't just unkind. She was cruel. Cruel in ways I never thought another human being could be, especially toward family. It started subtly, as if she were testing how far she could push me. Meals prepared only for the others, with something separate set aside for me. Always different, always suspicious. She would set it down in front of me with that smile that cut sharper than any knife. I wanted to believe I was wrong. I wanted to believe no woman could hate me so much. But every time the taste told me otherwise. Every time I forced myself to chew and swallow while my stomach churned. One evening, David walked in late from work. He kissed Anna on the cheek, sat down, and glanced at my untouched plate. "Mom," he said gently, "why aren't you eating?" Anna's voice was quick, defensive. "She's picky. I made something special for her, but she doesn't appreciate it." My lips trembled. I wanted to scream the truth, to shout, "She's feeding me dog food, David." But the words caught in my throat, because when I looked at his face, I saw the man I raised, tired, stressed, leaning on his wife for comfort. And I knew if I accused her, he wouldn't believe me. He would choose her. So I stayed silent. But silence only gave her power. The next insult came at breakfast. Everyone had toast and eggs, the smell of butter filling the air. My plate, however, had a slice of stale bread, burned on one side. The children giggled when I tried to bite it. Anna tilted her head and said, "Oh, poor thing. Maybe it's too tough for her teeth." The humiliation stung worse than the hunger. Later that week, she threw a dinner party. Neighbors, friends, David's colleagues, all gathered around the table, praising her cooking, her hosting skills. She played the perfect wife, laughing sweetly, refilling drinks, complimenting everyone. And then, with all eyes on her, she brought me a dish of something slimy, gray, unrecognizable. She placed it in front of me like it was a gift. "This is a special recipe just for my dear mother-in-law," she announced. "It's very soft, very nutritious." Everyone chuckled politely. I forced the spoon to my mouth, and as soon as the taste hit my tongue, I knew. The metallic tang, the rubbery chunks, it was dog food. In front of everyone, she had humiliated me. My stomach turned, my hands shook, but I swallowed, forcing a smile. My cheeks burned while Anna's friends clapped her on the back, praising her generosity. Inside, I was dying. That night, I curled up in bed, silent tears soaking my pillow. My chest ached so badly, I thought my heart might give out. I whispered to myself, "Why, Anna? What did I ever do to deserve this?" But my pain wasn't enough for her. She began planting seeds in my grandchildren's minds. I would catch them mimicking her tone, her cruel little phrases. "Grandma's slow. Grandma's messy. Grandma's weird." Each word cut me deeper than any knife. The children I rocked to sleep, whose scraped knees I kissed, were turning into strangers before my eyes. One day, the youngest tugged at my sleeve and asked innocently, "Grandma, why do you always eat different food? Mommy says you can't handle real food anymore." My throat closed. I had no answer. And David? He drifted further and further from me. When I tried to talk to him, he brushed me off. "Anna's under a lot of stress, Mom. She's raising the kids, managing the house, dealing with me working late. Don't make it harder on her." Harder on her? I wanted to scream. She's poisoning me. She's turning my own family against me. But every time I tried, his eyes filled with exhaustion. And I swallowed the words again. Then came the night that broke me completely. It was storming outside, rain pounding against the windows. I was in the kitchen washing the dishes when Anna walked in. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching me. "You know," she said slowly, her voice dripping with contempt, "you've overstayed your welcome. This isn't your house. It's mine. David's mine. The kids are mine. You're just a burden, and one day you'll be gone. Hopefully sooner rather than later." I dropped a plate. It shattered into pieces at my feet. My hands shook as I bent to pick them up, but she just laughed. "Careful, old woman. Don't cut yourself." Her footsteps echoed as she left, and I stayed there on the floor, clutching broken glass, tears running down my face. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, listening to the storm rage outside, listening to the echoes of her laughter in my mind. I felt small, worthless, discarded, and then, as if the universe itself wanted to crush me, I heard the children's voices outside my door. "Mommy says Grandma eats dog food," one of them whispered, giggling. "Ew, gross," another replied. Their footsteps ran down the hall, leaving me in darkness. I pressed my hands to my chest, my breath shallow, my body trembling. I had lost them, my son, my grandchildren, my dignity. In that moment I felt broken, humiliated, betrayed. But even then, even in the depths of despair, something inside me refused to die. A small ember of anger burned, faint but steady. I realized then that Anna wasn't going to stop. She would push and push until I was gone, erased from the family I had built with my own two hands. And if I didn't fight back, I would lose everything. The question was, how? I thought I had already endured the worst. But the night that broke me proved otherwise. It was late. The house was silent except for the creak of the floorboards under my tired feet. I went to the kitchen to get water, and that's when I heard it. Anna's voice, sharp, mocking, carrying through the thin walls. She was on the phone. I froze, my hand gripping the doorframe. "She doesn't even notice," Anna sneered. "I give her whatever I want, and she eats it like the dumb old hag she is. Honestly, it's hilarious. You should see her face." Laughter echoed from the other end of the line, fueling hers. I pressed my hand to my mouth to stop the cry from escaping. My body shook, my knees weak, but I couldn't tear myself away. "She won't last long," Anna continued, her tone cold, calculating. "She's frail, pathetic. I'll make sure she doesn't get too comfortable here. This is my house, my family. Soon she'll be gone." My heart cracked wide open. I stumbled back into the shadows, tears streaming down my face. Those words, they weren't just insults. They were a plan. I crawled into bed that night, clutching the blanket like a shield. The darkness swallowed me whole. My chest ached. My breath came in shallow gasps. I whispered into the emptiness, "Why? Why do you hate me so much?" But no answer came, only silence. For the first time in my life, I considered leaving. Packing what little I had and disappearing. I imagined myself in a tiny, cold apartment, alone, forgotten. The thought made my stomach turn. Was this how my story was going to end? But then, something shifted inside me. I remembered the years I had fought to raise David, the nights I worked 3 jobs so he could have shoes on his feet, the meals I skipped so he could eat, the storms I weathered alone. I wasn't weak. I wasn't helpless. I had survived too much to let a cruel woman erase me. My tears dried, replaced by something hotter. Anger, Her laughter replayed in my head. Her smug smile, her whispers to the children, her eyes daring me to fight back. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. No, she thought she could humiliate me, push me out, make me disappear, but she had no idea who she was dealing with. I decided then I wouldn't leave, not quietly, not broken. If Anna wanted a war, I would give her one. But revenge had to be careful, precise. If I lashed out blindly, David would never believe me. The children would never see the truth. She would twist it, make me look crazy, and win. I needed evidence, proof, and patience. The next morning, I rose earlier than usual. I moved slowly, silently, watching her. I noticed the way she hid packages from David, stashing them in the closet before he came home. I saw her slip money from his wallet when she thought no one was looking. I heard her on the phone again, bragging about the side hustle she ran behind his back, skimming money from the household. Piece by piece, I began collecting what I needed. I found an old phone tucked away in my drawer. The screen was cracked, but the recorder still worked. Each time she mocked me, each time she slipped and revealed her cruelty, I pressed record. Her voice filled the device, undeniable and sharp. I saved receipts, quietly noting the money that disappeared. I took photos of the hidden packages, the stashes she thought were safe. Every cruel word became fuel. Every laugh became a weapon I tucked into my arsenal. And the best part? She didn't notice. She thought I was weak, broken, defeated. She thought she had already won. That was her mistake. Because while she smiled and smirked, I was planning, watching, waiting. One evening, as I tucked my grandchildren into bed, the oldest looked at me and whispered, "Grandma, are you okay? You look sad." Tears stung my eyes. For a moment I almost broke, but instead I smiled softly and kissed her forehead. "Don't worry, sweetheart, Grandma's stronger than she looks." And in that moment I promised myself, I would show them all. I would show Anna that I wasn't weak, that I wasn't disposable, that you don't feed a woman dog food and laugh about it without consequences. I would bide my time, build my case, and when the moment was right, I would strike in a way she could never recover from. The dining table where she humiliated me would become the place of her downfall. But how? How could I turn the very weapon she used against me into the blade that cut her down? I waited, patient, silent, the way a storm gathers over the horizon, unseen but inevitable. Weeks turned into months, and every cruel jab, every whispered insult, every smirk across the dinner table only sharpened my resolve. Anna thought she was winning. She thought she had reduced me to a silent shadow in my own son's house. But what she didn't know was that I had been weaving a net around her, thread by thread, until the day came when she would walk straight into it. And that day arrived at last. David's birthday, a perfect occasion. Friends, neighbors, colleagues, even extended family were invited. Anna spent days preparing the house, eager to show off her perfect life. She loved nothing more than basking in admiration, feeding off the compliments of others. But this time, the spotlight would burn her instead of glorify her. I moved quietly in the background, smiling when spoken to, helping set the table as though nothing were wrong. Yet in my pocket, the old cracked phone was charged and ready. On it sat hours of recordings, Anna mocking me, calling me names, even boasting about how she slipped dog food into my meals. I had spliced the worst moments into a single, devastating file. When the guests arrived, laughter filled the air, clinking glasses and cheerful chatter echoing through the house. Anna floated around the room, her voice high and sweet, like sugar laced with venom. "David is so lucky," one woman said. "You run this house flawlessly, Anna. You're the perfect wife." I nearly laughed aloud at the irony. Dinner was served. Platters lined the table. The children giggled as they passed dishes around. David raised a glass, his eyes warm. For a moment, it almost felt like family again. Almost. And then, it was time. I stood slowly, my hands trembling, though not from fear, from power, from the weight of the moment. "I'd like to say something," I said, my voice steady. All eyes turned to me. Anna's smile flickered. She hadn't planned for me to speak. I pulled the phone from my pocket and placed it on the table. One press, and the room filled with her voice. She eats it like the dumb old hag she is. Gasps. Forks clattered against plates. Anna's face went pale. What is that? She stammered, her eyes darting. The recording continued, her laughter echoing, cruel and sharp. She doesn't even notice. I'll make sure she doesn't last long here. Soon she'll be gone. The room froze. Shock turned to disgust. Guests whispered. David's jaw clenched, his glass trembling in his hand. Stop it, this is fake! Anna shrieked, lunging for the phone, but I stepped back, holding it high. Fake, I said calmly, my eyes locked on hers. Then why does it sound exactly like you? I pressed again. Another clip spilled out, her bragging about stealing money, hiding packages, mocking David behind his back. The guests erupted. Some covered their mouths, horrified. Others shook their heads, muttering in disbelief. David's face darkened. He turned to Anna, his voice shaking with fury. Is this true? Anna flailed, her words tripping over each other. She's twisting this. She's lying. But the evidence was undeniable. Every word was hers, every venomous syllable exposed. And then came the final blow. I held up a photo, the very can she had once slipped into my meal, its label clear, unmistakable, dog food. She thought I wouldn't notice, I said, my voice rising with the fire I had buried for too long. She fed me this. She laughed about it. A horrified silence fell. The children stared at their mother, wide-eyed, betrayed. David stood, his chair screeching against the floor. His voice was low, trembling with rage. How could you? Anna's mask cracked completely, her face twisted, desperate. You believe her over me? She's old, she's enough, David roared. His voice shook the room. The guests watched, the illusion of Anna's perfect life shattering in real time. She looked around, but there was no ally, no hand to grasp. Only faces of disgust, betrayal, and judgment. I stood tall, my heart steady. For once I wasn't the victim, I was the truth-teller, the survivor. Anna's downfall wasn't loud, it wasn't violent, it was worse, it was humiliating. The one thing she craved most, admiration, was ripped away before her eyes. The party ended in chaos. Guests hurried out, whispering. David wouldn't even look at her. The children clung to me, silent and trembling. As I gathered my things, I glanced back at Anna. She was slumped in a chair, her face pale, her hands shaking. Her kingdom had crumbled in one night. And yet, I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet, because now the whole world knew who she truly was, and the fallout was only beginning. The house felt different after that night. Quieter. Heavier, like the walls themselves carried the echoes of Anna's downfall. She tried, of course. The very next morning, she put on her sweetest voice, insisting it was all a misunderstanding, that the recordings were edited, that I had tricked everyone. But her excuses fell flat. No one believed her anymore. The mask was gone. David barely spoke to her. When he did, it was clipped, cold, final. The children avoided her, clinging to me instead. They asked questions in whispers. Grandma, why would Mommy say those things? Why would she do that to you? I had no answers, only a soft hug, a kiss on their foreheads, and the quiet reassurance. Some people forget how to love, but you must never forget how to see the truth. Word spread quickly. Friends who once praised Anna stopped calling. Neighbors who admired her turned their eyes away when she passed. Even her own relatives reached out to me privately, ashamed, apologizing for her cruelty. Her kingdom of admiration, the very thing she thrived on, crumbled to dust, and she had no one to blame but herself. For me, life shifted too. No longer was I the silent shadow at the edge of the room. I was seen again, respected. The children asked for my stories at night. David leaned on me, quietly ashamed for not noticing sooner. I didn't rub it in, I only told him, sometimes love blinds us, but now we see clearly. Anna still lives in the house for now, but she is a ghost of herself. She avoids my eyes, avoids the guests, avoids the mirror. She knows the truth follows her everywhere, like a shadow she cannot shake. And me? I am not broken anymore. Yes, she tried to humiliate me. Yes, she tried to erase me. But I stood, I endured, and in the end, I exposed her with nothing but patience, truth, and timing. That is the sweetest revenge, not anger, not violence, but letting the villain destroy themselves in front of everyone they wanted to impress. I sit by the window sometimes, sipping tea, watching the garden I once tended with lonely hands. Now, little feet patter beside me. Little hands help me plant seeds. Laughter fills the air where once there was silence. Anna glares from the kitchen sometimes, but her glare has no power anymore. Not over me, not over anyone, because now they know. And that was the day she realized she had lost everything, while I gained back everything she tried to steal.